Let's dive into The Hobbit. Bilbo Baggins, an unexpected hero. We'll see him transform from a homebody hobbit to, well, someone much more adventurous. We'll uncover a lot about adventure itself, greed, and what makes a good story tick.
Sound like fun.
We're working with a really detailed summary of the book broken into 3 parts and then further down into the chapters. Should give us a good roadmap.
It's amazing how Tolkien uses a children's story to explore such complex, heavy themes, you know?
It really is. Okay, so we start in the Shire, peaceful, right?
Yeah.
Hobbits love their gardens, their second breakfasts, and avoiding anything out of the ordinary.
That's actually nice.
It does. And that's where we meet Bilbo Baggins.
Yeah.
Content until Gandalf shows up.
Gandalf the Wizard.
Yeah. Throws Bilbo's whole world upside down, it does.
Classic call to adventure trope, right? You see it everywhere. Disrupt the ordinary world, force the hero out of their comfort zone. Always interesting to see how they respond, though.
Bilbo, he tries to politely get Gandalf to leave, but Gandalf has other plans. Suddenly, Bilbo's hosting a party for Thorin Oakenshield and his company of dwarves.
A whole company.
Yep. They're on this quest to reclaim the Lonely Mountain from Smaug the dragon. Sounds exciting, but Bilbo wants no part in it at first.
You've got hobbits who value peace and simplicity, and dwarves who love treasure and battle. A real culture clash. Bound to cause some conflict.
Oh, yeah. Their first adventure is a perfect example. Bilbo tries to pickpocket those trolls. Remember that part?
Oh,
He's totally in over his head, almost ends up his troll dinner.
yikes.
Gandalf has to swoop in, use some clever tricks to save them all. I always chuckle at that scene.
It shows how unprepared Bilbo is. But there's potential. He's willing to try, even if he's clumsy, unsure of himself.
Things get a bit darker when Bilbo gets separated in a goblin tunnel. He has that encounter with Gollum, finds the One Ring. So pivotal.
You can just sense the power of that ring right from the start.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like this tempting allure, foreshadowing the consequences it'll have. Not just for Bilbo, but for everyone. Makes you wonder, would you resist its power?
That's a good question. Bilbo escapes the goblins and wargs, using a mix of luck, quick thinking, and the ring's invisibility. A glimpse of the resourcefulness he'll develop.
Exactly. The ring's a tool, but it's Bilbo's courage and ingenuity that let him survive.
And then they're rescued by giant eagles. Dramatic escape. Seems like every step brings them face to face with something extraordinary.
Each encounter shapes him subtly, though. More confident, more resourceful, more willing to face the unknown.
Challenging experiences can lead to growth, you know. And speaking of unexpected, their next encounter is Beorn, a skin changer. Turns into a bear.
Beorn, he represents that wildness of Middle-earth, forces beyond our understanding. And his warning about Mirkwood, well, foreshadowing the dangers ahead.
Mirkwood. That's where things get really interesting.
Back against the Hobbit. Last we left off, Bilbo and the company were at the edge of Mirkwood. That place is known for dark magic, confusing illusions.
Oh, Mirkwood is so creepy. Atmospheric. The forest itself is like working against them, playing on those doubts, anxieties.
Yeah, and it's there that Bilbo really faces a challenge. Giant spiders, he has to fight them off to save the dwarves.
Intense scene.
Uses his wits, uses the ring to outmaneuver them.
You really see his courage growing.
Yeah.
And his resourcefulness. He's not relying on Gandalf anymore, or luck. He's taking charge, becoming the hero.
It shows how different their approaches to leadership are, you know? Thorin, he depends on strength, his lineage. Bilbo, he's got humility, he thinks fast. A different kind of leader. Adaptable.
Almost like Bilbo's hobbit nature. The things that seem like weaknesses, they become strengths out in the world.
Yeah.
And then they're captured
Yeah.
by the elves of Mirkwood. Not evil exactly, but
No, not evil.
they don't trust outsiders, especially dwarves. Whole new problem.
The elves add this layer of complexity to the story. An ancient power. Isolated. Suspicious. Shows the tension, the mistrust between different groups.
Yeah.
Even if they have the same goals.
Like the world isn't just good and evil,
Right.
Shades of gray. Makes it
Yeah.
much more interesting. Poor Bilbo's stuck in the middle. And he comes up with this escape plan. Barrels. Smuggling them out.
Nerve-wracking.
Oh, absolutely.
But brilliant. It shows his confidence, his thinking is more strategic now.
A master strategy.
He's not just reacting anymore, he's thinking ahead, planning.
And finally, they reach Lake Town, a human settlement near the Lonely Mountain. You'd think, peace, finally, comfort.
You would think.
But of course not. New challenges, new characters, new ambitions.
Lake Town changes things. We meet Bard, a good man. skilled archer. And then there's the master of Lake Town, greed, self-preservation.
Oh, yeah.
It sets up the conflict that's going to have a big impact on how their quest ends up.
The stakes are higher now. Smaug's threat looming over everything, and the treasure, it's like awakening desires in everyone, noble and selfish.
Smaug, he's like the embodiment of greed, and it makes you wonder, will this treasure help the dwarves, or will it corrupt them?
That's a good question. And speaking of Smaug reaching the Lonely Mountain, that's when things really get going.
The calm before the storm. They've reached their goal after all that. But the biggest challenge is still there, inside. How do you think you'd feel? Standing there, knowing a dragon's waiting.
Terrified. But Bilbo, despite being scared, he's determined. He's come so far, literally and emotionally, not giving up now.
Right.
Plus, someone's got to be the burglar.
He does a good job of it, too. That encounter with Smaug is one of the best scenes. Imagine the courage, facing a dragon. In its lair, treasure everywhere.
Bilbo not only survives, he talks to Smaug, uses his wit, the ring, to his advantage. And he even spots a weak spot in Smaug's armor. Tiny detail, huge consequences later on.
That scene is just brilliant. Bilbo's intelligence, how he thinks under pressure, riddles, wordplay to distract Smaug, gives him time to observe, to plan.
A chess player.
Yeah.
But even then, he barely escapes with his life. And a single cup, gold, as a trophy. Small victory, but it enrages Smaug. And Smaug attacks Lake Town.
That attack, it's a real turning point. Tragic. Shows how greed, unchecked power, they can be devastating.
And that's when we see what true leadership is. The master of Lake Town, scared, he runs, abandons his people.
Yeah.
But Bard, he steps up, defends his home, risks his life to face Smaug.
Such a contrast. Bard, he's courageous, selfless. The master, he's a coward.
And Bard, he takes Smaug down, using that knowledge Bilbo got about the weak spot. Triumphant moment, but it also starts a new conflict.
Smaug's dead, so now what? Who gets the treasure? Dwarves, men, elves, they all want it. Ambitions clashing. Could easily lead to war.
And Bilbo, right in the middle again, he sees how the treasure changes Thorin, turns him from a brave leader into, I don't know, paranoid, possessive, obsessed with this Arkenstone, the heart of the mountain.
Even the best intentions, they can get corrupted by greed. Thorin wanted to reclaim his home, that's understandable, but becomes an obsession. He can't see what others need, can't see the possibility of peace.
Smaug's gone, Bard's the hero, but, well, things aren't exactly peaceful. Dwarves, men, elves, all eyeing that treasure. Lots of tension.
It's like the danger's just changed forms, not a dragon anymore. Now it's a fight for power, greed, old grudges, that kind of thing.
Give Bilbo, he sees how the treasure changes Thorin, turns him, I don't know, darker. Not the leader he was, obsessed with this Arkenstone, the heart of the mountain.
It's sad to see, really. Understandable wanting to reclaim his home. But the treasure, it twists things, becomes an obsession, can't see past it.
Thorin isolates himself, up in the mountain, won't share, ready to fight anyone who comes near. Even Bilbo can't get through to him.
Shows what ambition can do if it goes too far, you know. Fear, mistrust, he'd throw away friendships, everything, just to keep that treasure. It's like a reminder, all that wealth, it doesn't really satisfy you in the end.
Bilbo, he sees what's happening, knows he has to do something big. Steals the Arkenstone, gives it to Bard, hoping it'll force Thorin to negotiate, stop a war.
Wow. Bilbo. Choosing peace over loyalty, risking everything. Sometimes that's the bravest thing you can do, defy the leader when they're wrong.
It shows how much he's changed. Not that timid hobbit anymore. He understands what responsibility means, making tough choices for the greater good.
True leadership, it's not about grabbing power or gold. It's about using what you have to make things better, even if it hurts you.
But there are consequences. Thorin's furious, feels betrayed, war seems certain. And then, goblins and wargs attack. A huge army coming right for the mountain.
Everyone's in danger now. Dwarves, men, elves, they have to work together. Makes those arguments about treasure seem pretty small, huh?
It's an epic battle. Everyone fighting to survive. And in the middle of it, Thorin, he sees the truth. How his obsession almost cost him everything. His friends, his honor.
Thorin's redemption, it's a powerful moment. Sad but hopeful too. Makes peace with Bilbo, admits he was wrong, and then he dies fighting. But I guess it shows it's never too late to change, to try to fix things.
A lesson in forgiveness. Thorin's gone, and finally there's peace. The dwarves have their kingdom, the men rebuild Lake Town, elves go back to their forests.
They all went through so much, lost so much, but they choose to move forward, together. That's what matters.
And Bilbo. He goes back to the Shire, changed. He's seen incredible things, faced real danger. But going back to normal life, It's not so easy.
No, it wouldn't be. How could things ever be the same after that?
It's like he brought a piece of that bigger world back with him. He understands things differently now. But the other hobbits, they don't get it.
He appreciates home more, I bet. But he's got those memories, you know? The wisdom, the friendships, those are things no one can take from him.
So we've reached the end of our deep dive into The Hobbit. What stays with you? What's the most important thing this story tells us?
I think it's that anyone can do amazing things, even the smallest, most ordinary person. You just gotta be brave enough to step outside your comfort zone, be open to the unknown. Bilbo shows us that. Courage, staying true to yourself, and how adventure can change you for the better.
I like that. And it makes me think, what about us? If we went on an adventure, what would we find? How would we be changed? That's something to think about, isn't it?
Definitely, because the real treasures, they're the ones that change us inside. The lessons, the friendships, the courage we find in ourselves, those are the things that matter long after the adventure is over.